So 25 says a small company sells stock for 5 1/4 dollars per share. How much will 248 shares cost? So one share is 5 1/4 dollars. How much would 2 shares be? We would just double it or add it, right? And then 3 shares. Now, do you want to keep adding it repetitively like that? Probably not. So what are you going to do instead? Multiply. So we're going to take 248 times 5 1/4. So how do we work with whole numbers and mixed numbers when we're multiplying? Well, we need to make everything a fraction. So I'm going to turn 248 into 248 over 1. And I'm going to convert 5 1/4 into a mixed number. So what would 5 1/4 be as a mixed, or as an improper fraction? Sorry, it's already a mixed number. How do I turn it improper? How'd you get 21 over 4? Yeah, just take your denominator, multiply it by the whole number, and add the 1. And then you keep the denominator. And now multiplying, you don't need common denominators when you multiply, so we don't have to worry about that. And now I can just multiply straight across. Actually, I think we can do some simplifying before we do that. Because I think 4 and 248 have something in common. Do you think 4 goes into 248? I think it does, because does 4 go into 24? Yes. And will 4 go into 8? Yes. So I'm going to come over here off to the side and just see how many times that happens. 4 goes into 24 6 times. And 4 goes into 8. Yep, so it looks like 62. So we can change, 4 goes into 4 once, and 4 goes into 248 62 times. So now I have a denominator of 1, so I essentially don't have a denominator anymore. And now I just have 62 times 21. So I got to do some multiplication here. That would be what, 4, and check my computation, because sometimes I get going fast and I make silly mistakes, which is what you guys do on your final exams. So I got 1,302. And this would be money. Let's check our answer. Yep, $1,302 is how much it would cost for 248 shares at 5 1/4 each. Okay, 27. We have 11/15. And the directions say find decimal notation. Well, remember your fraction bar also means what mathematically? Division. So what we really have is 11 divided by 15. Now notice 11 is on the inside, 15 is on the outside. That's where students make the mistake. They put 15 on the inside. Okay, 11 divided by 15. Now 15 doesn't go into 11. So I'm going to go in here and put in a decimal and then just a 0. And that's not going to change the value. But what it will do is now, instead, I can go 15 doesn't go into 1, 15 doesn't go into 11, but does 15 go into 110? Yeah, it will. We just need to see how many times. So what do we want to start with? Let's see here. I know 15 times 2 is 30. 15 times 3 is 45. Times 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Do we want to start with 9? Or do you think 8 or 7? What number should we try? I'm just going to start multiplying. I'm just going to pick 8. 15 times 8. That would be 8. Oh, that's under 20. So it's got to be less than 8. So 7. Well, 7 will knock it down. Yeah, 7 should knock it down to what, 105? Because that would be 35. Yeah, so it looks like 7 times. So 7 times 15 is 105. When I subtract, I'm left with 5, because I would have to borrow from here. So I have 5. Now, am I done, though? No, because I can add another 0. I can bring that down. And how many times does 15 go into 50? 3. Because what's 3 times 15? 45. And now I subtract, and I get 5. And what's going to happen? It's going to keep repeating. The 3 is going to keep repeating. So it's really 11/15 is the same thing as 0.73, and the 3 repeats. Just the 3, not the 7, but the 3 would keep repeating over and over and over again. So put the repeating bar just above the 3. Plus 6/5 and times 2.86. So I have 2 multiplications and a plus. So what do I have to do first in order of operations? I have to multiply. So I have 2 multiplications I have to do before I can add. So when we're dealing with decimals and fractions, you probably just want to convert it all to one or the other. And is it going to be easier to convert to all to decimals or all to fractions? Decimals for sure. 3/4 is a very common decimal. You probably don't even need to do the math for that one. What is it? If you have 3/4, you have how many? How much is 3/4? 75 cents. So 75.75 times 0.058. And then you could go ahead and finish this off. 6/5. Do you know how much, you know what 6/5 is as a decimal? This one, let's go ahead and we probably need to calculate this one. 5 goes into 6 one time. And if I put a decimal and a 0 and bring down a 0, 5 goes into 10 twice. So 6/5 is the same thing as 1.2. So I really have too many problems inside this one problem. I'm going to have to multiply these 2 together, and I'm going to have to multiply these 2 together, and then I'm going to have to add those 2 once I finish that. So the first problem, 0.058 times 0.75. Now when you multiply decimals, you really can just ignore the decimal point. You really don't have to worry about that until you get to the very end with your answer. So let's see here, 5 times 8, and this is really just distributive property, kind of like what we were talking about the other day. You just probably never thought of it that way. 5 times 5 is 25, plus 4, 29. And now distribute your 7. 7 times 8 is 56. 7 times 5 is 35, so 40. Okay, so I got 4350. Now, this is where the decimal place comes, or decimal point comes in. How many decimal places do I have in my answer? Or I'm sorry, in my problem? I have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4. I need 5 decimal places in my answer. So I'm going to have to pencil a 0 in there and then put my decimal point. So I really have 0.04350 is what I get when I multiply 0.058 times 0.75. Somebody might check my work with a calculator if you have one handy, just to make sure. But keep in mind, this is the non-calculator part of the final, so we're just kind of doing this to review, but I just want to make sure we're correct before we move on. And then if somebody can check that, and I'll get the next part started. Oops. Am I off?
I just did that on the calculator and it says 3.475.
Okay. Okay, so let's do the other multiplication. 2.86 times 1.2. So 2 times 6, we have 12. 16, 17. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1, 5. And then I like when I get to multiply 1 through because that's easy. And then let's add. Let's see here, so it'd be 6 and 8, so 17, so 3. And now, how many decimal places? Well, I have 1, 2, 3 decimal places in my problem. So I need 1, 2, 3 decimal places in my answer. So that's going to give me 3.732. Now remember, we have to add these together.
That's not right.
That one's not right?
It's 3, 4, 15.
Let's see here, it's 16. Oh, you're right. See, that's why I'm glad somebody's checking me. So that's 2, that's 13, that's 6. Yeah, that'd be a 4. I don't know where I got 7. So now we're good? Okay, so now I need to add 3.432 plus 0.0435. So when I add those, I get a 5, I get another 5, I get 7, 4, so 3.4755. And I think that's our final answer. 3.47, and that's probably the answer you were getting first, wasn't it?
Yes.
That one right there? Okay. So yeah, the whole thing. The thing you have to watch, and the number one mistake I see, first of all, working with decimals can kind of be, a little tricky. You just have to take your time. But a lot of times people forget that the sign in the middle is a plus sign. So then they end up multiplying everything together, and then they end up with huge numbers and all these decimal places, because now you suddenly have a 4-digit times a 3-digit and all these decimal places. And so make sure you pay attention to your signs and do order of operations.